What kind of effect will XRP ETFs really have on the price of XRP? Let's say we got 5 billion, 10 billion, and 20 billion. I wanted to look more closely and get a better idea of what was going on. What does this mean for the price? Right here, I have everything you need to see. First, we'll talk about why ETFs are going to be so important for the future growth and liquidity of the XRP community. We are also going to talk about some groups. We're going to talk about neobanks and crypto. We're going to talk about some facts about Brad Garlinghouse. Got a clip of Ray Dalio talking about the economy and of course Ripple getting into the US bond markets, or at least getting some access to them. Very, very important. We'll talk about all of this and more. Let's begin this way. It was a quiet launch for a leveraged XRP ETF that crushed predictions while everyone watched Bitcoin stubble. If you want to know how the T2X long daily XRP ETF, also known as XRP, became one of the hottest new funds of 2025, read on. Everything about the launch date was great. Terra put out an XRP on the NYC Acre on April 8, 2025, with 2x daily exposure to XRP through swaps and futures. On day one alone, it saw 5.55 million trades, putting it in the top 5% of all ETF starts. This was a huge win in a tough market. Do you remember that the stock market has been going down last few weeks? It says a lot about the demand that this product was ranked in the top 5 of all ETFs when it first came out, even though the market was down. Also, keep in mind that not everyone can get to or is at this T-Cram bank. I think they're waiting for their own banks to come out with goods like these. This is why, a lot of big investors, both institutional and private, don't want to have to worry about keeping their own tokens safe. These ETFs will be used to load up. Things didn't stop there. The number on day 2 was a huge 13.3 million, with 8.88 million. Day 3 is still going strong. By April 11th, the amount had reached 8.58 million, ending at 29 to 21, up from 23.37. It was clear that XRP was made for traders, and they used it. There is a lot of growth in institutional funding. Most toddlers shouldn't use XRP. It's made for smart players who want to get bigger rewards. Hedge funds and professional traders can now use regulated leveraged XRP vehicles, which is something they've been waiting for years. Timing was everything and nothing, even though XRP had a huge start. Why did Bitcoin drop 11.8%? The price of Ethereum dropped 45.4%. If you had bought Ethereum a year ago, you would have lost 50% of your money. Okay, you would have made 300% more if you had used that same amount of money to buy XRP instead. It's a big difference between losing half your money and making 300% more. Big, right? Good for XRP and the people who use it. It's clear that people need more. I believe we will get more. Green lights from the government helped. When XRP was approved, the SEC was more open to cryptocurrencies. This is the case that Ripple has wrapped up, or had wrapped up, getting rid of legal confusion and building trust in institutions, smart investors and smart planning. Through swaps and options, XRP keeps an eye on XRP. At an expense ratio of 1.85, these shouldn't be spot holdings for a fast-moving, high-volatility plan. It's priced to work, not to be idle. Performance and the craze. Other crypto ETFs failed to challenge XRP's quiet domination. Then it talks about the bigger but more important numbers to keep an eye on. At its peak, it drew 13.3 million people. The price hit $29.21 on April 11th, putting it in the top 5 of all ETFs. That's very, very important news. In order to better understand, the market value of XRP could change a lot right now if $5 or $10 million were put into it. This could happen in the billions of dollars. That's what we call the multiplier effect. This is something I've recently talked a lot about in my live streams and in a few movies. There is a real multiplying effect, and we need to know more about how these ETFs will change things, using a 1x ratio to help you understand this better about XRP ETFs. So there isn't really a multiplier effect. 50x, 100x, and 200x. In XRP ETFs, what will happen to the price if $5 billion, $10 billion, and $20 billion USD are added? It figures out everything, right? Multipliers that should be thought of as the 1x. I thought you should see a 1x, so I did one. How much of it is going to change one on one? Okay, so here's how it breaks down. There are 5 billion, 10 billion and 20 billion here. That's the 1x. How much is the multiplier worth? You also have the new market cap and an estimate of the price. You can see that 5 billion won't get you much for that price. Okay, you know it's only a few cents. If we use a 50-fold multiple, then 5 billion is equal to 250 billion. That's $6.43. If we had a 100x or 200x increase, the value of $5 billion added to the ledger would be worth $10.80 or almost $20 in XRP. Let's check out 10 billion. The 1x, 50x, 100x and 200x are here. At 10 billion, 224 would be the 1x. At 50x we'll get $10.80. At 100x it will be almost $20, and at 200x it will be $10 million in real terms. The price of XRP could reach $36. Of course you had the 150, 100, and X if you wanted to look at 20 billion. The X would cost $2.42. It would cost $20 for the 50x. In simple terms, 100x would be $36.98. And 200x on $20 billion going into XRP ETF could make each XRP worth $71. Now all of this is going to be, it's hard to get exact numbers. It's possible for the multiplier effect to change. It could go up or down. Actually, it's really hard to say for sure. I must have looked at 15 or 20 different examples of the multiplier effect while I was doing all the study for this. The smallest one I saw was about 40 to 50 times the number of times it was paid out, and the biggest ones were in the thousands. Those weren't really like that. Most of them are 100 or 200 times increases. Now I really wanted to understand this better because 20 billion might seem like a lot of money. It's not possible, I know though. How much do you think was put into the Bitcoin ETF when it was at its peak? 110 and 115 billion. Okay, I think there are still about 95 billion won in the Bitcoin ETF right now. I wanted to know more about it, so here it is. As of April 18, 2025, the US spot Bitcoin ETF is worth about 95 billion. What will happen if XRP really does turn into a ticket that institutions around the world will use to move value or tokenize value, right? They need to make their own stable coins in order to use them. Basically, this new network for moving value or tokenized value is what it is. As soon as people understand that XRP can be used for more than just storing value, they will start to use it more. Thank you, DeFi and markets. It's possible that $100 billion will be put into XRP in the next few years. Yes, people are starting to realize that this technology really is here. The government is quickly adopting the technology. There are going to be rules. What is it that we see? Here are 100x, 200x and 50x. This means that for every $95 billion we get, the value of one XRP will increase by 50 times. 100 times would be $167 in XRP. To put it another way, if we got $95 billion, it would be